Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Odd Resolution 5357, and it says, "Am I the arsehole for telling my daughter that my in-laws are stupid?" My wife and I have 3 kids. Our youngest, Emily, turned 6 last Sunday. We recently had to deal with an issue in Emily's school. Last year, a new student joined her class and started bullying her. He'd make fun of her, call her names and steal her stuff to hide it around the school. On 2 occasions, the bullying got physical. It took us a while to sort everything out because the boy's parents were a nightmare and nothing the school did worked. Finally, they threatened to expel him if he didn't leave our daughter alone, and his family got him to stop. He hasn't bothered Emily in months, and she is doing much better. Because of how much of an ordeal this ended up being, many of our friends and family members know what happened. Most were frustrated as we were, but my wife's stepmother, Patty, thought the whole thing was cute. Even after we told her everything the boy did, she still insisted he probably just liked Emily and didn't know how to show it. For whatever reason, she's fixated on this. Every time the subject comes up, Patty says she still thinks we're being dramatic and the boy deserves another chance. My father-in-law fluctuates between being angry at the school and agreeing the boy was probably harmless. They never spoke about this near the kids, and my wife and I don't give a shit what they think anyway, so we never worried much about this. We're throwing Emily a birthday party this Saturday because my father-in-law will be busy. We all had dinner together at a place Emily likes the day before her birthday. Near the end of the dinner, she started talking about her party, how excited she was and which of her friends were coming. My father-in-law asked Emily if the bully was invited, and before anyone replied, he obviously isn't, Patty added that it would be mean if she didn't invite him, because he liked her and would be very sad. Emily looked at me and my wife. I told her, "Don't worry honey, Grandpa and Patty are both very stupid. Don't listen to them." They looked shocked, but didn't try to argue. We had an awkward goodbye and we went our separate ways. My father-in-law called us on Monday. He apologized for what he and Patty said, but he told us he expected me to apologize as well. He said that I crossed a line by insulting him and his wife in front of his grandchildren. My wife and I have been on the same page throughout all of this, but yesterday she told me she was starting to wonder whether it wouldn't have been better to deal with this privately, especially since we don't like insulting people in front of the kids. Am I the arsehole? Edit. I brought this up in the comments, but I wanted to offer more context on what the bully did. It was mostly verbal. He created a few nicknames that kind of, not really, sounded like Emily's real name and our last name. She once got brown paint on her clothes during art class and he started calling her Pig. He laughed whenever she spoke in class. The teacher would always shut him down, but Emily is already a shy kid and that didn't help. They have weekly toy days at school, and Emily stopped bringing her toys because the boy kept stealing them or threatening to break them. He'd also take her stuff, backpack, school materials, and personal items and hide them. We managed to get all those things back, and the closest he got to damaging something she owned was a small rip in one of her stuffed animals that my wife was able to fix. And as I mentioned, the bullying got physical twice. On the first occasion, he pushed her off a swing set. She scraped her knees but wasn't hurt otherwise. The school reprimanded him, but it didn't do much. A few weeks after that, he put gum in her hair during lunch. The teacher witnessed and said that he grabbed her head violently to do so. That got him suspended, and the school threatened to expel him not long after. I don't think there's much I can say about this boy, except that he has very obvious behavioral issues that his parents refuse to manage properly. And, I think the majority of the comments on this one was not the arsehole, with a few "you're the arseholes" thrown in for the initial name calling. It's obviously not ideal, but sometimes I think damage control just needs to come into place, and I think that's exactly what it was. The grandparents were basically saying, be nice to the boy that was hurting you, and the dad was basically saying, don't listen to them, they're wrong. It wasn't the best choice of words, but That was it. I'm with the dad on this. If they're making stupid comments like this, they just got called out for it. As simple as that, really. Your daughter has already been through enough, and they were certainly not helping the situation at all. It was the heat of the moment when you've already dealt with Patty up to this point, saying, she thinks that you're being dramatic and the boy deserves another chance after everything he's already done. Grabbing your daughter's head violently and putting gum in her hair? Madness. I know it's a young kid or whatever, but how can you have sympathy for that person? I certainly wouldn't if it was one of my family members who was the victim of that. But the first commenter said to OP, not the arsehole. You have told Patty to knock it off, and then she went and tried to ruin your kid's birthday party by asking to invite that nightmare of a child to attend. She needs to get over her fixation before she pushes your family away from your dad and her. Opie says, I'm really glad we didn't do this dinner on her actual birthday. Emily was upset, but she was doing better the next day. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. I wouldn't apologize. They were out of line. You have to take bullying seriously. Kids are harming themselves just from being bullied. And they really need to stop with, he likes her and meant no harm. Nothing is cute about being bullied and harassed. Opie says Patty's whole attitude about this has been infuriating. We've barely spoken about this boy in months, but she feels the need to bring him up every single time. Another commenter says there was probably no other way to make your mother-in-law shut up, so not the arsehole. What I find disturbing is that your mother-in-law prioritizes a bully over her own grandchild. Since when is bullying a sign of affection? If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, chances are it is a duck. Seen in a wider context, your mother-in-law enables and makes excuses for the kind of toxic behavior that men display towards women on a daily basis. Instead of protecting her grandchild, she exposes her to a bully. That's seriously insane. Another commenter says, back when we were having to deal with the boy's parents, one of the excuses they used, referring to the name calling, was that all boys behave like that around girls. I think about that a lot, both because I know it's not true. Neither of my sons are like that. Nor did I act like that when I was a child, and because of how disheartening it is, people could enable that. A downvoted commenter says, you're the arsehole. You just called your father-in-law a name in front of your daughter. They're from a different generation. Yes, they're wrong, but so are you. They aren't just your in-laws, that's your wife's parents and your daughter's grandparents. You owe your wife, your daughter, and them an apology. Opie replied saying, firstly, Patty is not my wife's mother or my children's grandmother. That's my mother-in-law, who is still alive and kicking. Secondly, my father-in-law is in his 60s, so not that old. I don't really consider that a good reason to be soft. You can absolutely make the argument that I should apologize, but not for that reason. Another commenter says, Patty downplaying your daughter's trauma in front of her would be it for me. I wouldn't let anyone around one of my kids that try to downplay or minimize the hurt that they have suffered by their bully. And I'd tell them that. I'd definitely take a time out from seeing Patty for a while because I'm sure a comment confused your daughter. Opie says Emily cried on the way home. You had to tell her she wasn't being mean to the boy. Opie then gives an example of the physical assault, and Opie says the physical harm part is being brought up pretty often, so I'll take the opportunity to clarify what I mean by this. On the first occasion, he pushed her off a swing set. She scraped her knees, but it wasn't hurt otherwise. The school reprimanded him, but it didn't do much. A few weeks after that, he put gum in her head during lunch. A teacher witnessed and said that he grabbed her head violently to do so. They got him suspended, and the school threatened to expel him not long after. Someone said, what steps did the school take to deal with the bullying situation? Opie said the school actually handled everything better than we expected. But we could tell they were having trouble with it because the boy was very difficult to deal with. Transferring him to a different class didn't work. Sending notes to his home didn't work. Setting up meetings between us and his parents didn't work. Not even suspending him worked. We could always tell the school was trying, but nothing they did stopped him or convinced his parents to do something until they threatened to expel him. Someone said, does Patty have any kids? Opie says she doesn't have kids. My wife and her sister don't consider her a second mum either. So it's about a week later after this that Opie did update the post and says, I'm very grateful for the advice and support you gave me on my first post. To get it out of the way, Emily's birthday went off without a hitch and she had a great time with her friends. It's always bittersweet watching our little girl grow up so fast, but me and my wife enjoyed ourselves as well. We talked more about what happened over the last few days. My wife made it very clear that she didn't care that I called her father and Patty stupid and didn't think I should apologize. but was concerned about our kids thinking I was a hypocrite. We always aimed to teach them to be kind and avoid insulting others, and it didn't feel fair to hold them to standards we don't hold ourselves to. So Friday nights, we sat the kids down and discussed what I'd said. We explained that I was upset at what my in-laws had done and was trying to protect Emily, but that what I said was still not nice and they shouldn't repeat it. I apologized for the language I used. Besides that, my wife and I also talked about how we'd deal with her father and Patty. I told her I wanted them to apologize to Emily, and I wouldn't say a word to them until they did. She agreed with me. After the party, she texted her father the following. This is a translation. The party went well. About what happened at Emily's birthday dinner. OP will not apologize. Patty has no right to tell her daughter how she should feel about the boy who made her life hell for months, and neither do you. I'll call you tomorrow and you'll apologize to your granddaughter. If you want your wife to continue being a part of the children's lives too, she will too. And if she mentions that boy again, I'll have to seriously rethink the role we're letting her have here. This isn't up for discussion. Fair play. She showed me the text before sending it, but I agreed with pretty much everything. They had a short fight about it, but he agreed in the end. I offered to apologize to keep the peace, and my wife told me not to. Both my father-in-law and Patty finally apologized to Emily on Sunday. We're not confident about Patty, but my father-in-law seemed sincere. Either way, we've decided to loosen our ties with my wife's stepmother for a while. We're still working everything out, but we'll see her less until at least my eldest son's birthday, October. I have no doubts my father-in-law loves my children, but he's a very strange guy. He was overprotective of his daughters their whole youths, but frequently tells us we're dramatic when it comes to our kids. And I never had any strong feelings about Patty, but her treatment of Emily's situation has soured my image of her. On a side note, the bully found out about the party. His mother found my wife on Instagram and messaged her to complain that he wasn't invited. My wife reminded her of the day the school threatened to kick her son out. No reply as of today. I didn't know what to expect when I posted here, but I was glad to see that even those who thought I was in the wrong agreed that Emily and her well-being came first. At the end of the day, that's all I really care about. This will be my only update. Thanks everyone. A commenter said to OP, glad everything worked out. As for the bully not being invited to the party but finding out, fuck around and find out. Maybe if his parents didn't raise him to be mean to other kids, it wouldn't be an issue. Opie says his parents enabled and found excuses for everything he did up until the consequences got too severe. One time my daughter physically defended herself, and the few times my sons yelled at him to defend her were upsetting to them. They disapproved of everything the school did to protect Emily, including moving their son to a different class. Another commenter says, I'm glad you taught your daughter that abusive peers don't like her. That kind of thinking is insane. I'm 60 and I hated hearing it when young. Opie says both me and my wife hated it too. It was especially infuriating when we were having to deal with the bully and his parents, and Patty started trying to convince us that the boy had a crush on Emily. Hearing that the kid who was tormenting my daughter on an almost daily basis was just a cute little boy who didn't know how to deal with being in love was maddening. Someone said any chances that Patty knows or is friends with the bully's parents. Opie says, highly doubt it. We never gave Patty or my father-in-law any last names, and they're not involved with my children's school otherwise. Both of the boys' parents also have very common first names. Another commenter says to OP, it's hard enough watching your child go through something like that, but when the other parents enable the behavior instead of taking responsibility, it just makes everything worse. I'm glad your kids stood up for Emily. Sounds like they did the right thing even when the adults didn't. Opie says, I guess it would be too hard to watch someone call your sister a pig and not do something about it. My sons are both older than Emily and the bully, so I'm glad they didn't get physical, but I'm proud of them for defending her. And the final comment said, why the heck would that kid's parents care about your daughter having a birthday party? My god, they're deranged. Opie says they didn't actually parent their child until the school threatened to expel him. The reaction does not surprise me. My wife showed me the mother's text. She essentially said it wasn't fair to exclude her son and gave some of the same excuses for his behavior she'd given during our meetings at school. Ugh, and that kid isn't going to change either. The fact that his mother found Opie's wife's Instagram and was messaging her to complain about it. It was just madness. I was thinking through part of it. Did Patty know about the kid or something? The way that she was insisting on the kid not doing anything wrong and it was cute, etc. It seemed a bit weird, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story is titled, I, 29 male, broke my wife's, 28 female's, heart. How do I save my marriage? My wife and I have been married for 4 years, and together for 6. I love her deeply. However, recently I have developed an infatuation for a woman I work with. I did not cheat and have a strictly work relationship with her. I recognized my feelings as a mere crush, but still felt guilty and needed to talk about it. About 2 months ago, I posted on a forum, not Reddit, about this woman and found sympathy. It helped me understand how crushes in a LTR work. A month ago, I came home to my wife having printed my post. She confronted me, and as I was taken by surprise, I didn't really know how to explain myself. I couldn't lie either, so I just apologized to her. She read me my post while crying. I cannot post it entirely here, but basically I said she was a breath of fresh air, the reason I'm happy to go to work. I wish I could hold her in my arms and know how she smells. I often dream of her. Sometimes I lie down and imagine her in front of me. There were things I was thinking but couldn't say aloud. There were things that could have been written in a diary. They were private thoughts and I never imagined my wife would read them. In the end, it is just a fantasy. Ever since that day, my wife has barely spoken to me. She refuses to discuss it and won't look at me in the eye the rare time she addresses me. She moved into our guest room. She told me she was getting ready to divorce and would file when she has enough money and that I shouldn't hope, that I am free to pursue that woman. I understand why she is hurt, but it is just an infatuation. It is not comparable to the love and history I have for her. How can I get it through to her? She told me she never had feelings for another man and that I betrayed her. She won't stay married to a man who yearns for another woman. I told her I would change jobs, but she just said, I still dream of her. She is completely closed off. What can I do? I apologize for errors. I'm stressed and not a native English speaker. On the back of this, someone asked straight away, so have you gotten a new job yet? What have you done to show your wife that you're serious about your marriage and that she's the only one who matters to you? Opie says, she won't let me talk to her or touch her. Sometimes she will leave the room when I come in. She is like a wall. I tried buying her favorite flowers and wrote a card, but she didn't take them. I'm invisible to her. I was looking for jobs when I informed her I would change jobs to avoid the woman, but she just told me not to bother, as she was leaving. In this economy, I cannot easily risk being unemployed, especially if I will end up divorced. Pancakes, Waffles, Toast says, there's an innocent crush, and then there's wanting something to happen between the two of you. Your wife knows this. Everybody knows this, and you should know this. You wanted to hold your coworker in your arms, etc., etc. It's not the fact that you have a crush on someone. It happens naturally and is human nature. It's the fact that you have a crush and wanted things to happen between you two. And that's what broke your wife's heart. Also, in the first place, if you wanted to keep your thoughts private, you shouldn't have posted it on the internet. And, you know, your wife isn't just hurt by the crush. She's devastated because the person she trusted the most, the person she should be able to trust the most, was fantasizing about someone else in ways that really came across as quite intimate and romantic. The fact that you're fantasizing about her, dreaming about her. I can see why your wife felt the way she did. Imagine reading your partner writing about that online rather than, dealing with it in therapy or privately. But it was 5 months later that OP came in with an update and said, I'd forgotten about this post and I'm back to update, so maybe seeing my stupidity could prevent someone else from making the same mistakes. I cringe when I read today what I wrote months ago, and it seems ridiculous to me that I could have felt this way about another woman. I wrote that I would imagine my former coworker while lying in bed, but in the end, my wife stopped acknowledging my existence. Waking up without seeing her face was just absolute torture. I really took all I had for granted until I almost lost it. So I took some of the advices and decided to court my wife again the hardest I could. Of course, the first step was looking for another job, and it took me a month, but I managed to find a similar position in another enterprise. I did what was suggested of taking every other chore, and she stopped ignoring me, but would simply stare at me with some kind of hostility and go on with her life. I tried flowers, but she would leave them to die. My wife's dominant love language is physical, but I wouldn't dare try touching her, so I went for telling her. I somehow realized it was really the content of what I wrote about the other woman, which obviously when you're deep in a crush is amplified. That really hurt her. I tried engaging her in conversation so we could talk about what was happening to us, but more importantly, what I did to her, but she remained closed off. And so I started writing her letters and would leave them under a pillow. At first I apologized for everything for writing the post, for not putting an end to the crush faster, for making her feel like another woman could hold a higher place of importance to me, and for not taking the initiative to change jobs earlier, for making her life hard by creating this situation which ended in her sleeping in the guest room of her own house, for making her cry and causing stress to her. Then I wrote her love letters telling her how much I loved her, how the crush couldn't compare to the deep love I have for her. I was chewed for saying I loved her because of our history in my last post, but I was misunderstood. I meant that the love I have for her has gotten stronger with time. 5 years ago I loved her, but wouldn't have given her one of my organs if she needed, for example. While now I would without hesitation. My history is what caused the attachment to grow stronger, therefore no random crush could override that. I was awed in front of my crush and wrote sappy things about her, but in the end, I do not know this woman on a personal level. Well, I have seen the worst of my wife and the love remains. I told her how beautiful she was and how impressed and proud I was with her development as a person since we have met, how grateful I was for her presence in my life and every single thing I was thankful for that she did and enhanced my life, how much I needed her and missed her telling me how her day went, laugh at my bad jokes and basically just missed hearing the sound of her voice. This is a small sample, but it must have taken a good 3 weeks of daily letters until she answered me back. She answered with a letter of her own, telling me how much I have hurt her with my crush, how I made her feel invisible next to that woman, how I never told her such loving words, until the letters, how much she hated me but also how she loved me and missed me too. The letter allowed me to feel her vulnerability. After reading it, I cried and went to see her. We locked eyes, she cried and we held each other for a long time. She started talking to me again then and softened. Honestly, the possibility of the marriage ending just like that scared the both of us. As of today, we are, to my surprise, mostly back to normal, and actually I feel closer to her. We continued with the letters which have helped increasing our emotional intimacy. I make an effort to tell her and show her my love. I'm very grateful that she has given me a second chance, and even more so that she has decided to put the crush behind us. We had maybe 2 fights since, but she hasn't brought it up and doesn't punish me. It really wasn't the crush on itself, but how I went about it and the lack of affection from my part in comparison. Maybe I'm being optimistic here, but I truly think we're going to get through this. We will be going to couples counseling after our vacation just to make sure things are really settled between us. Toothless says to the OP on this one, it's nice how hard you are trying. The thing you need to continue to work on is not stopping this once you've got her completely back. For me, I would never get over what you said. I would have filed for divorce immediately. I'm glad things are working out for you though. OP says thank you. I do not plan on stopping. I realized I wasn't putting enough work into my marriage before. Terrible Dragon for Hire says, yeah buddy, save the letters, and when you have a fight or you forget how much you love her, you break that shit out and remind yourself. And one more comment says, I would kill or die to see my late wife again for even 1 second. Treasure her and don't fuck up again. And there was a mix of comments on this one. A lot of people skeptical whether it's actually going to work out after this. Other people saying good on OP for making the effort. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.